Hey, welcome back. It's Food News and Chews Radio. Thanks for joining us. Gang's all here. Sylvia Lovely. Chef's going to talk to us about French wines in a minute. Norma's going to tell us all about farmers markets.
And French
wine dinner.
Yeah.
French wine dinner.
We're going to eat with our wine.
We're going to talk breakfast today. We got Jimbo from Jimbo McKinley, the owner of the Tack House Pub.
I love him. He's such an authentic,
local
it's
such a great
owner.
restaurant.
Yeah, a local owner. I mean, quintessential. He's entertaining. He's wonderful. He kind of floats around the restaurant.
They make great food. It's in Elkhorn, by the way, if you don't know the Tack House Pub.
Too. I've been stuffing myself. I'm miserable.
Fantastic. Where do you want to let's start with? We're going to talk breakfast in a little bit. And I know we're going to talk about menu changes, but let's talk about your French wine dinner.
Yeah, so guys, we have another dinner coming up on May 31st. This is a chef series, and we chose to do French, mostly because we kind of been reading stuff about the reemergence of the French bistro,
Really?
and then, and just the fine dining experience. Whereas my younger chefs were really, haven't done a lot of the French classical stuff. They went to school, but, in culinary school and French classical, what happened is there's so much to learn in that course. You're given one item, and then the other chef is given another, right? So if you didn't get to actually do the rack of lamb or the duck à l'orange, you kind of observed it. You never got your hands on it, though.
Who's the mother of French cooking? Is that?
I think I'm going to go back to Escoffier then. Yeah, I think that's going to be,
Well, what about the woman? She's a famous...
Julia Child?
Yeah, is that a French?
Well, she was American. She really epitomized French cooking in America. She brought the pleasures of French cuisine to the mainstream American public.
Homes.
Yeah, and she was a fantastic chef. But I think that she made it relatable, to the American population.
Yeah. So you're doing a French dinner, and you're going to pair French wines with French courses. Are you going like classical or like neo-classical, or your take on classical?
Americanized? What are you doing?
So I'm going very much classical. And the reason being is we're doing an intense study on several different techniques in this menu. This menu is more about training my chefs. I know the results are going to be delicious. There's no problem with that. But this menu is not about showing off. It's about being precise and about following a recipe and following a technique. So, for instance, we're doing escargot, but nobody really around here knows how to break apart or clean up a fresh snail and stuff it, right? The snails that you probably had in a restaurant anywhere in this region probably came out of a can. You didn't know that. So we're going to bring in fresh ones and work with that. We're going to be baking our own croissants. We're going to be doing sauce américaine, which is a very intense classic French sauce where you have to start with, basically lobster roe and make a lobster stock and then boil that down with fresh tomato juice and white wine and brandy and cognac and butter.
Is this all in the first course, escargot?
No. The escargot, I'm just doing the snails, and then we're going to stuff the shell with an intense garlic and Pernod butter with breadcrumbs.
I was in a job interview early on in my legal career, and I got tricked into eating escargot.
And it was good, right?
Because I said I would not eat that, and they tricked me. I forget what they told me it was, but I ate it.
Did you like it?
Well, I didn't eat any more of it, but I didn't gag or anything like that. I mean, so it was just I got tricked.
I think
Jeremy tricks me sometimes.
But I think you should try. It's a good thing to try, and I've had a few of my regulars approach me and like, "Hey, Jeremy, about the French dinner. I've never done escargot," and I'm like, "Great." I want to do it right for you the first time.
See, that's a good point because most recipes, most food is interpretation. So this is my version of fried rice. This is my version of... But with these French recipes, there are specific recipes, and there is a right and a wrong way to make them, right? I mean, they're right down to how much salt you use. These are time-honored... These aren't methods.
Is that what makes
these are recipes.
A classic kind of French, because it is very precise?
I think that...
Can you do these at home? I mean, you said Julia Child's kind of brought...
When I think whenever you have a menu where you're naming, flétan américain, steak au poivre, actual dishes, escargots à la bourguignon, like when you're naming a French classical dish, I do think there is a recipe and a method you have to follow.
Okay.
If I want to do a French halibut and not kind of do the Americana, I could make a French dish, but we're going to be very true to some of the classics.
And
as been put out by Alain Passard or Paul Bocuse or Guy Savoy, some of those chefs who are really modeling after.
But you also have halibut on this menu, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. And what I was saying is we're going to do the halibut in the classical French preparation with the sauce américaine or sauce americane.
Oh, okay. And then you have another item.
Then we're going to be doing steak au poivre, which we're going to do in a pan-seared New York strip steak. And then in the pan, we're going to be basically deglazing with cognac to flame it up with green peppercorns and veal demi-glace, and then a little bit of cream at the end that will boil that down, and sauce the steak after we slice it with pommes dauphine, which is a nice little potato preparation. And then last is profiteroles, which I think a lot of people know. It's a huge...
Like an eclair.
Yeah, you make choux paste. It's a
Yeah.
classic French technique, and then, it's a dough you make in a pot. How else do I describe that? You boil butter and water together with salt, and you add flour, and then
One
you make
egg
a
at a
batter,
time,
one
right?
egg at a time, and then
Yeah.
you can bake off profiteroles, or these big puffs that we're going to stuff with vanilla ice cream with dark chocolate sauce and toasted almonds.
Let me ask you a question. What is the signature sauce with French cooking? Is there a signature thing that
Well, yeah,
you
there's
got to know if you're going to be a French?
Yeah, you want to start with your
Chef.
mother sauces, and there's 6. I would probably expand that in the modern kitchen now to include gastrique sauces, because I believe that's probably a whole other category, a whole other mother sauce category. But bechamel, espagnole, tomato, hollandaise, velouté, and demi-glace are kind of the world we live in on sauces, and all the other sauces are just kind of little versions of those, little offshoots.
So like Mornay that you get on your hot brown is a version of a bechamel.
Correct.
And so they're all and gravy is very similar to,
Right.
what
So-
we call gravy. It's
Right,
like,
right.
And
Yeah.
I would probably name, back to Sylvia's question, Beurre Blanc and or Bechamel or Hollandaise the top French
ones.
sauces. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And,
Great.
they're all so rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
And if you want to get tickets, or not tickets, but make reservations, because you need reservations for the French wine dinner.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's
Yeah, when
May
is it?
31st, 6:30 p.m. You're going to get all 4 courses: the
With wines.
escargots, the halibut, the steak au poivre, profiterole. Then you're going to get the French wines. Now, these wines I did not pick. I wrote the menu. I know it's going to taste. We're dealing with level 3 sommelier Tony Major, so he's going to expertly pair these, and he knows the flavors of these dishes too. So I expect it to be a pretty awesome pairing experience. $80 a person, but that includes 4 wines
All of
and
that.
4 courses.
Yeah,
and all
all
that.
of it.
So
And
Sounds
get your
delicious.
tickets.
yeah, that's a dessert.
Now, speaking of French bistro cuisine, one of the questions you had off the air, I think we were talking about this, is we were talking about the difference between a bistro, a pub,
and a diner.
and a diner.
And we were talking about diners and kind of walk in and you're in a really cool place, a
Yeah.
diner. And what makes a diner, a bistro is pubs are kind of known to be just kind of drinking spots, right? With a little food on the side. But bistros, what is a bistro as opposed to, say, fine dining? Bistros are
So the
memorable. It's meal centric, is what the definition says.
Definitely, like more on specifically, a bistro would offer French food,
That's right. It's
French
bistro
style
is a
cuisine.
word.
And a diner is going to offer American style cuisine.
Hamburger.
I think a
more
diner-
booths and waitresses, than
Flow, yeah. Okay.
than your I guess your maitre d' and the full thing. And then you've got, what was the other one, a pub, and that's
Yeah.
going to be centered around
The
Beer.
alcohol
You
is
think of beer
Yeah, the
and,
alcohol is
drinks.
first, the food is
for
second.
other drinks. Yeah, beer and drinks.
I think a diner, in my mind, a diner has to be a place where you can get breakfast and I can get lunch at the same time.
That was the classic, yeah.
You have to be able to do that. I have to be able to order a club sandwich and you order an omelet and no one bats an eye.
See, I think that too. I think short order.
Yeah,
I
right.
think one
Yeah.
dude and a
That's
grill, and your ticket comes in, he makes that, and it's done.
Yeah.
Like it's not like we're coordinating table 4 and table 6 together and the appetizers or entrees.
Yeah.
It's done when it's done, and it comes out when it's just a quick cooking.
Yeah. Yeah, I there's a comfort in that to me. I like
like
the
it.
comfort of the diner and the short order and the bell ringing and things coming up,
Yeah, yeah, it's a feel.
But
feel
the bistro, there's a lot of non-French bistros in America. I think this is kind of a dirty term, but I think
Right.
I think there would be an elegance behind a bistro.
Yeah, yeah.
Versus a diner could be, pretty much come in and...
Would a bistro be a fast casual version of fine French food?
Azure is a bistro.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what it is.
Okay.
We're elegant and we're serving fine food. We're
But
not
you don't
a
have to
diner,
wear a three-piece
right?
suit. You don't
And you're
have
not-
to.
Yeah,
And
you
we're
don't
not
have
a pub.
to- You know, it's not like,
Right.
you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's just
It's
not
probably
got-
the closest definition. Like, what is where I'm like, well, it's a restaurant. Like, do you have steaks? Yes. Do you have burgers at lunch? Yes. You know,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
that's the best version. It's kind
seafood.
of elegant
You
bistro.
got like kind of a general stuff like that. Okay, so now there is a news item out there, and we need to get to pancakes and farmers markets. QR codes.
QR codes.
What do you think is happening? I am so glad they are going away.
The
If you've
QR code,
noticed-
yeah.
if
And that
you've
happened during the
noticed-
pandemic when people didn't
Yeah.
want to have, everything had to be single use.
And I think they thought this was going to be a time saver, that, you know, you wouldn't have to print menus and stuff. But the world said, no, we want the menus. Because I noticed that at Grimaldi's.
Because we're on our phones too much anyway.
And
And
they-
if
they
you
would
and I
say,
go out
"Do
to
that
lunch,
QR
I don't
code?" No,
I don't
I
want to
don't
look
do
at my
that.
phone. I want to look at you, Sylvia.
Yeah,
I want to look
thank you
deep into
very
your
much.
eyes while we're talking.
Even though I'm old and I don't want to use a QR code because I don't freaking know how.
Listen, I have
I had to figure it out.
I have
I'm
the
like,
same
how
problem.
Do you do this?
It's not conducive to fun eating for me. And also, I'll be honest, after I touch my phone, I want to wash my hands.
Well, that's true too, and they say you should.
Right.
I just don't think it gives you the complete picture. I don't know. There's something about a menu where I almost have to
something you
see.
wanna look
I have
at
to
it.
see
The
everything because I can't
panorama.
even tell you one thing sounds good without comparing it against
Yeah.
another.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And I need to see them in the same field
And
of
that's
view.
what the Grimaldi. I love the Grimaldi's menu because it shows the pizzas.
Sure.
and what
But
they
also,
look
there's
like and-
expectations behind dining in some senses. I hate these kiosks you walk up to. I hate quick service restaurants. I'll tip the person at the counter, but I hate the whole experience.
Yeah.
There's nothing good about it.
I agree.
So, yeah, I mean, menus and sitting down and being presented with a menu and being formally
It feels
served
good.
and having somebody open a bottle of wine, there's nostalgia behind it. There's
There's
service, there's care. So,
Yeah.
forget
Yeah.
the QR codes.
So anyway, they are getting forgotten. So
Good.
that's-
It's a feel. So we were talking about this, and we're going to talk to Norman about farmers markets in a moment. But I had just a quick question. We were talking off the air about menus and how prices are moving and things. 1 week this is up, this is a. How often if you own a restaurant, do you have to look at your menu and go, I got to adjust prices, or so do you have to reprint menus?
crazy
or-
right now, isn't it?
Is that a weekly thing, a monthly thing, a 6-month thing?
Well, you can't. You simply can't change menus and prices as much as prices and menus need to be changed. During the past 3 years, we have been doing it. So right now, I think that if you're a restaurant operator and you're not running at least a weekly prime cost, if not daily or every 3 days, then you're probably making a mistake, and that's going to be a snapshot on your operations. It's not very complicated. Okay, it's labor versus sales. It's food purchases versus sales, and it just gives you a little snapshot of your weekly overhead. Food, if you're in a restaurant, that's going to be 75% of your overall revenue. Okay, so you're going to notice food costs being off a point before you notice a few beers walking out the back door.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If you're not getting monthly financials, then I think you're behind. But you give yourself a weekly snapshot because things right now are changing so much. And they're not telling you about it.
What's up and what's down right now?
Well, eggs are way down, chicken's way down,
Yeah,
which was
that's
the
what I've seen.
biggest thing, right? Oil and butters and stuff like that still seem to be a problem. And that's kind of an underlying driving cost for a lot of restaurants.
Sure.
Everything that you see in that restaurant is sauteed or grilled or fried in some senses. So the lubrication, the oil has to be there, and it's whereas you never really thought about that expense.
Yeah.
You do a ladle on the flat top, and you're searing something or a
Now,
burger.
it's a
Now,
big deal.
every time I do that, I'm like 50 cents,
Yeah.
$1.50, and that's
Wow.
Yeah.
But 50 cents cost us means it's $1.50 to the customer.
Right, because you have to. Right, the kind of the 2/3 rule, or
Right.
The, you know,
And there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
ratios, if they're not in line, there's
So
nothing
you do
left
other
over.
things to kind of, like you try to find ways to use one thing more than
You betcha.
once and
You
all of
betcha.
that kind of stuff so that because you can't change it every time.
You can't.
It
And
changes in
availability
reality.
became the biggest thing. So, yeah, I think the strategy was to just base your
Sauce,
core menu around very widely available cheap ingredients.
Or sauces on various pieces and parts that work. Yeah.
Do double duty, or
cross
triple duty.
utilize
Yeah,
every.
yeah.
I think my rule on our menus, and if you look at the Azora menu, you'll see it. We hide it in certain ways, but we build our appetizers or our entrees section first. We'll do one or the other. And then the challenge is everything that we've created, those sauces, those ingredients have to go in this menu 3 more times or it doesn't make it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And sometimes you'll get down to like the last thing and last item, and you just can't find that little last piece of the puzzle, and you're out of cooler room, and you're out of storage room, and you're out of. I don't know. It's very complicated, guys. It sounds easy, but it's not.
One of the hidden things, we'll talk to Jimbo about this because he was never in the restaurant business before. And one of those things, before, if you've never been in the restaurant business and you all of a sudden buy a diner, you don't know these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Norma's going to talk to us about the yummy time of the year, which is farmers markets.
That's right.
Farmers markets, not farmers markets, but farmers markets.
Farmers markets are starting to get back in full force now, right?
Oh, they are. They're all open. There's so much good stuff out there.
What's out there
We're
right now?
seeing lettuces. We're seeing fabulous asparagus, strawberries.
These are all early
all early things.
because
yes.
they're not summer. It's
What
late
about the
spring.
strawberries this year? Unbelievable.
Believable.
Really?
And
They're big and juicy and wonderful.
They're
yes.
just wonderful.
And I have a great hack for you. So, get your strawberries. They don't last long, right? 1 part vinegar, 3 parts water. Rinse them off good. Don't cap them. Give them a bath in that vinegar, and put them on a paper towel. Dry them off, and put them in the refrigerator. Last a week.
That's not bad.
Just tried it.
So the vinegar I've never done, but certainly the storage method, like the little clam shells they give you in the store, is not really the best
No,
way
it's
to preserve your strawberry.
And always look at the bottom. When you buy those, always look at the bottom. Make sure you don't have a
Can
moldy
you do
one.
that with other fruits?
It's worth a try. I mean, it works
Because that's
beautifully.
one of the problems
with the
if you're a 2-person family is you can't buy little amounts of stuff.
Right.
You buy big amounts of stuff, and just keeping stuff fresh is a challenge.
Hard.
So I was reading this article this week. There's actually some new research, and they were able, specifically with strawberries, but most fruit, they were able to extend the shelf life 2-3 times longer by giving it a bath that involves a CBD rinse.
Really?
So
that's interesting.
using CBD extracts because evidently
miracle drug.
the same effect it has on humans, it has on fruit, and they're able to get 3 weeks out of strawberries
What?
in testing. Yeah,
That makes
3
me
weeks.
think it might be related to, say, hops. Like
Yeah.
the herbaceousness of hops, and you're talking about hemp and herbs, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there's something
maybe
too, because
so.
all hops was done. They added that to beer to preserve it, right?
yeah.
So what comes
Antibacterial.
next?
Okay.
In
so,
farmers markets.
So then we're going to start to see.
In where? June? Early June?
Getting into
June-ish?
June, and you'll start to see more and more your tomatoes, which they're already, because of our hoop house technology, which allows them to start growing
But there's
earlier.
nothing better than an old July
But
tomato,
the
right?
old July tomato that's baked in the sun, it's
I
had its
know.
little
I
time
think
in
there
the sun.
is there is a difference.
Is wonderful. But there's in Lexington now, there's a farmers market almost every day. A big shout out to the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. If you want a list of Lexington and surrounding areas farmers markets, just go on kentuckyag.com and it's all on there. And
Fabulous.
go out, and there's not just vegetables. You got meats, cheese, plants.
Your favorite is
everything.
Chevy Chase, right?
Well, that's because it's 3 blocks from my house.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Farmers markets
it's
also a great place to
Yes.
buy your summer plants if you're going to be doing
Yes.
gardening this summer. I
Great
bought all my
plants.
plants at the farmers market
You know
this
what's
year.
good this year? And now maybe I've had 5 of them because my son was a real aficionado. Watermelons.
Oh yeah,
They are good
Yes,
this
they're
year.
great this year.
Kroger's watermelons are like the bomb.
yeah.
Great this year.
Crispy. I don't know.
Must have had-
One could describe what they love in a watermelon.
It's
but
my favorite time. It's my favorite fruit.
crunchy And good sugary, but crunchy is real important.
Not mealy.
Watermelon.
I'm with you.
Not mealy.
I'm with you.
Yeah, must
And
have
does
a lot of
anybody
rain.
here eat salt on their watermelon?
Yes.
Yes.
That sounds gross.
It's
My father
amazing.
did.
My father
He would
did too.
suck
I
his
got it.
watermelon.
I don't know if Chef. I don't know how you feel about this. I like hot sauce, Tabasco
On your
sauce on my
watermelon?
watermelon.
I never tried
Not
that.
all the time.
You are weird.
It's delicious. Oh, it is so good.
We at home, we basically slice it, and then I hit it with lime zest, cayenne pepper, a pinch of salt, and usually feta or queso fresco.
I was going to say feta, and to me, feta, lime, and mint.
No.
Yeah,
We
and
do
so
feta,
the
lime, and
dressing
mint.
I use is basil and mint.
Yeah.
And typically a little
give me a
splash of
crunchy
some
piece of
kind of
watermelon.
white balsamamic and a little
Balsamic's
sugar.
fabulous.
It really, seems to
Y'all are
help
messing with me
macerate
because
it.
watermelon just right there and just. Or get a half one and just get a spoon.
See, I'm with you because watermelon's one of the things when it's good, it's so good, you don't want to waste time getting other things.
You got
See,
to
I
plan
do-
your watermelon eating so that you don't have to go to the bathroom 18 million
That's-
times.
Yeah. You
I
can
think
also
Absolutely.
cut a little hole in it and pour vodka in. That's fun.
No.
Well, I think there's something to do with it.
Y'all are weird.
The people that like salt on the watermelon are the same people that love salt on the margarita.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
Y'all are weird. Okay.
All right.
just
We
saying.
are. On that note, when we come back, we're going to talk breakfast and all things Tack House Pub with Jimbo McKinley. So don't go anywhere. This is Food News and Chews Radio, sponsored by Sullivan University, online at sullivan.edu. Hey, welcome back. It's Food News and Chews Radio. If you've been to the Elkhorn Shopping Center, just off of Harrisburg Road, you've probably seen the Tack House Pub. If you haven't eaten there, you should. It's amazing, and the owner, Jimbo McKinley, is with us. You're a fan of it, right,
I've
Sylvia?
always been a regular there, but not so much, I think, because we've just been really, really busy. But we came back that one morning. I came in with a good friend of ours, a mutual friend, and he said, "Oh, Jimbo, come over here." So it was like, oh, wow, because I love this place. And I'm sitting here eating their chicken salad and their grits, which are to die for, and this burrito. It's my usual thing. So now we're going to become regulars again.
Well,
so
thank
we
you.
love
Thank
it.
you.
We love it.
You're, and we'll talk about how you got into the restaurant business because it was kind of sort of an accident of how the whole thing started. But first, the food, the soup, everything.
We've been eating.
It's
We've been
amazing.
munching.
Yeah, what'd you bring? Talk. Well, we've already
Yeah.
eaten some of it, guys. Sorry, but
And
go ahead and tell
while
us
we
what you
eat some
brought.
more.
I brought our most popular sandwich, which is called the Easy Goer. It's our chicken salad sandwich with lettuce
delicious.
and tomato. We sell this by the half pound, by the pound. And
Really?
we
Oh,
really,
so you do bulk stuff too.
yeah. We sell our soups by the pound or by the quart. Sorry, grits same way. But yeah, that's and then our most popular salad is the Tabasco Cat. It's got the chicken, the corn salsa. It's got a Southwest
Yeah.
ranch dressing on it. It's one of our and then our most popular breakfast item is the breakfast burrito
It's the
and
bomb.
the grits, the cheese grits.
Yeah.
I find that I kind of the taste for me when I wake up on the weekends, I want brunch or breakfast. Somehow the Latin flavors are really satisfying to me in the morning. I don't know what that is. They're flavorful, but they're hearty. They're filling. There's something about Latin flavors that just work in the morning.
Red
So I always look
sauce.
for a breakfast burrito.
Yeah.
Like a red chili sauce lends itself to
Oh,
eggs. It just
yeah.
goes.
Yeah. Maybe
so
it wakes you
well
up.
together.
Maybe it wakes you up in the morning.
Yeah, so I mean,
How
that's
much
what I
of
look
this
for.
came over on the menu that was there before? Because you only owned this, for 2 years?
For 2 years, the only thing, everything with Tack House has pretty much stayed the same. The only thing that I've kind of added was the biscuits and gravy, or my gravy recipe.
Nice.
And I did make for a short time, and I haven't done it in a while, but I make my own pimento cheese. So I would make pimento cheese, and we were selling that and using that as a sandwich item.
What's in this? It's really good. Are there?
The
there's
chicken
some really
salad
good,
has the it's,
Grapes? Did I see
grapes, the chicken, of course, the spices, and
a nut of some
nut,
kind.
walnuts, I believe.
Chicken salad is one of those things. Like there's 1,000 chicken salads. Everyone
Yeah,
makes a chicken
and
salad.
everyone's a little different.
But when you find the one you like,
Yeah.
that's the only one you want to eat. You know what I mean? It's like falling in love. When you find a chicken salad you're into, that's yours.
I feel the same way about pimento cheese.
Yeah.
That's why, when I make my own, and I would make it at home and kind of put it on Facebook that I'm
Right.
making it, and it was uncanny. People were like coming to my house to get some. I wasn't selling it. I was just giving
Giving it to your friends.
because I would make it. I make it with different items. Bacon. I put bacon in mine. Jalapenos.
See how it is.
Because it doesn't make it hot. It just gives it more of a smoky flavor to it.
Yeah, that's a fun thing to play with, and you can still be true to its roots.
Right.
I've been to those food festivals, Sylvia, in the South, like Charleston Food and Wine, where they think they're the
cat's meow,
They know
Love Charleston.
what pimento cheese really is, and the way I've seen so many recipes I like. Some with different cheeses, some with different. But as long as you keep it basic, I think it's
Well, it's basically cheese, mayonnaise, and
Yeah.
But there's
I had
some kind of something with the mix.
I had a pineapple pimento cheese once, and it was one of the worst things I've ever
Pineapple
had.
You can get
pimento.
creative with your pimento cheese.
But maybe you shouldn't.
For a while I was putting cashews in them.
Yeah.
But then you had so many people with nut
nut
allergies.
allergies.
When you're giving that away, you're like, you gotta. That does have nuts in it. You gotta
But
tell what people-
cashews do add something to
Yeah,
things. I mean, it's
it
got
gives,
a sweetness.
It gives it a flavor.
A sweetness. I love that with rice.
Right.
But now you have been only in the business. You work at KU.
Right.
You have a day job.
I call that my day job.
Your day
yeah.
job.
Yeah.
But do you need a therapist to help you get through this?
Some people would say yes. My wife probably would say yes. But,
Well, this started as a joke, right? Tell us how you bought the Tack House pub.
Well, yes, that kind of. But the way it kind of happened. I mean, I grew up. I was telling you, my grandmother and great aunt would work at Begley's drugstore. A restaurant, and I fell in love with that atmosphere of knowing everybody that walks through the door, and they, it's just kind of the norm effect with Cheers. You walk through the door and everybody knows you, and so I kind of fell in love. Kind of wanted to do something like that my whole life, but never really had the means or the money or the means or the time. So my wife and I, we were kind of discussing it after our kids grew up. We were like, hey, let's bring this idea back to the forefront, and kind of, so we would talk anywhere we would travel. We'd go in restaurants. Oh, I think I wouldn't do that in mine, but I would do that. That looks like a good idea. So we would,
It's like a fantasy game.
Right, it
Absolutely,
was.
yeah.
And then, unfortunately, she passed away in 2020, and through therapy, I would eat at Tack House all the time because that was our favorite place.
Yeah.
And the owner, Erin, was sitting there one day, and she just came up to me and she said, Jimbo, you eat here all the time. You ought to just buy this place. So I jokingly back said, well, how, is it
What
for
are you
sale?
all for?
And she kind of caught her off guard, and she, well, could be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
All
there
right.
you
so
go.
then I got with a good friend of mine, Kathy Chase, and wanted to get her thoughts because she's owned businesses before and currently owns her own business. And so I got with her one day. We were eating out there, and I said, hey, I'm going to run something by you. I'm thinking about buying this restaurant. And she looked at me and said, let's do it. Not the reaction I was looking for, but
The normal
Talk me out of
yeah,
this.
I was expecting you don't want to do this, or here's what you need.
But
to,
it was a sign, Jimbo.
It was. It kind of all came together, and so we got together, and
the rest is
June of
history.
21, we became owners of the Tack House.
What's different about what you would expect out of owning a restaurant?
The fantasy of owning the restaurant, there's two sides to it. There's the fantasy of owning it, and then there's the business side.
Of doing it.
And nobody really tells you the 100% of the business side. You kind of got to learn it as you go and figure it out a little bit. But there's it was already an established restaurant, so I thought I'd just walk in, but no, I had to get all these inspections done by everybody, and it was just a learning curve that I had to come. Big learning curve.
You got into the restaurant business in a pretty crazy time in 2021,
Right.
where things
Yeah,
were not
that's
exactly.
probably where the therapist comes in. Not many people decide to buy a restaurant coming out of a pandemic or right in the middle of a pandemic. Probably not the wisest business decision, but
Yeah.
hey,
I'm glad you shot your shot at it, though. I mean, I think when it ultimately comes down to it, you just have to, because you're never going to
You'll never
be
know.
able to
You
pinpoint
either
what's going to
jump in the
happen in a
pool or you
restaurant, or if it's going to work, or what's going to
You work
sell that
through
day,
it.
or how many people are going to come through the door in a given hour. So, I mean, you just have to just throw it out there and see.
You
now,
are exactly right.
you have, in my opinion, when I think about our region and out-of-town guests, you're at the top of the list for, I think, the feel of our region. You know, the kind of Kentucky Tack House, the
Horsey
theme
kinda
kind of
thing.
fits. It's where I tell people they need to kind of go to get a nice breakfast to start the day before they go to the breweries or distilleries or out to Keeneland or the horse
Keeneland,
park.
right.
It's a really sweet gem
It's a
that
beautiful
personifies
place,
who
too.
we are in our city.
Kind
And
of
it
in the
doesn't
country.
it doesn't hurt to be in close to 100-year-old building.
Everything
was,
about it.
It was the farmhouse, I think, at one time on that
Yeah.
property, and but it's a quaint and the ambiance of the place. And one thing I did learn in my 57 years of visiting restaurants and And living in Lexington, which I've always said we have more restaurants per capita than
Yeah,
I think any
so.
other place in America. It's like there's always a restaurant opening up or whatever. But I found out one thing that I kept seeing. So when I find a place that I'd love, and then next thing you know, they're closing down. What? Or,
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, if it works, people try to change so many things.
Yeah, that's right.
You can change a few things, but when you try to overhaul
Yeah,
and
people
do,
were attached to the
right.
concept.
People love it for a reason.
It's a
and-
beautiful setting, right in the middle of one of the highest growth areas in our
Right.
city. So tell us, one of your issues might be, can people find it? And just awakening people to it.
Yeah, no, when you say South Elkhorn Shopping Center, they're like, what? So
You go
and
down there, you
to
go
give,
down
to give a
Harrisburg.
competitor a plug, I use Ramsey's because they're
Oh, sure.
located right at the front of the, and I just tell them, we're right behind Ramsey's.
No, and I
Shameless.
think
And
that's
everybody, oh, I know where that place
that's
is.
a
Yeah.
landmark anchor. Rob had the foresight years ago to hop into South Elkhorn, knowing that the development was going to go out that way, and Ramsey's is a staple for us. But I credit our side of town in general, South Elkhorn, Beaumont, for staying non-corporate. If you not notice, other pockets of the city have a lot more drive-throughs, a lot more corporate restaurants.
Yeah, I hope we can
and,
maintain that.
Over by Keeneland and some of our precious areas we want to show off in town, I hope we do maintain that, Sylvia.
Yeah.
So we have places like Tack House Pub, Azure, like you're independent.
I never noticed that, but you're exactly right.
Right.
As you move more toward the Hamburg area, it gets much
more
more
corporate.
chainy.
Yeah,
I never noticed
there's
that.
no
but you're-
drive-throughs in Beaumont.
You're exactly right.
There's a Chick-fil-A up by you guys,
Right,
but
they
not
just
down in your
opened that up
center.
recently.
Yeah, but everything there's what you would call in a good way mom and pop places,
Right.
and that's the way it should be. That's a yeah.
Well, when we would travel, I would never look. Why eat at a chain when you can
Right.
do that at home? So when you travel, you want to go to the
wanna
mom
go
and pop,
someplace.
something that's different,
I
something
think
that's
that's
unique to the
sparks
area.
sparks the conversation of why we do what we do. And speaking to getting to know your friends and the norm and the cheers aspect, the independent restaurants like over where we are, we're kind of tucked away in big neighborhoods. We're not downtown. You don't have to shower and shave to go downtown and make 7 o'clock reservations. So you end up getting this consortium of neighborhood people, your local bistro where everybody knows everybody, and that's what makes it cool.
I love going
Well,
to
the casual part of it. Just come. We got a big patio out front.
Yes, it's
and-
beautiful, by the way. You've really enhanced it.
Yeah, well,
It's beautiful.
It's just the
And
whole.
it's shaded. It's again.
Well,
it
we
goes
have a tent over top of it.
Yeah,
so
that's
it-
right.
it-
That was an innovation
right.
I didn't know
but,
about.
At least on rainy days, you can still sit out there and eat. But it's people love it. Actually, I met a couple. It's been a couple weeks ago, but they were in a Airbnb on a farm over on Leestown Road, and somehow our brochure was on the table.
Yeah.
And they just came to eat because they didn't know anything else, and they loved it. They were from Michigan, but they
well,
were
the name Tack House, and then that setting is very.
right.
I don't. It's kind of on the edge of the horsey kind of.
And it was
world.
an actual tack house at one time. You could get your saddles and
And you were saying on your menu, you called that Tabasco Cat. These are all,
most
horses.
of the stuff is named
Yes,
after
you made
horses.
them.
It has a horse theme.
And let me say, as someone who I like breakfast establishments, I know you guys are open till lunch, till 2 o'clock,
8 to 2.
right? 8 to 2. I like breakfast establishments, and one of the hardest things to find is to go to a good non-chain breakfast restaurant. There's only a handful in town.
And breakfast is growing as
Absolutely.
an eat out kind of thing.
It's my favorite meal.
I agree. It's
Yeah,
my
you
favorite meal
drink
to
your
eat out
coffee.
because it's the meal I don't want to cook.
Right.
I want to have I'll cook dinner, but I don't want to wake up and make gravy.
Right.
No, that's right. That's right.
That's true.
Gravy.
That's true. But we've got the hot brown, so it's and it's our version. Everybody has
A
it's
version.
not
That's
the
one of
original
those. Yeah, that's one of those.
Brown Hotel hot brown, but everybody has
what
their
yours
version.
is.
But again, the burrito and of course everybody. I didn't put biscuits and gravy on the menu all the time because it is a time-consuming type thing
Yeah.
to make every day. So I would do it as specials, but then everybody's like, "Oh, when are you gonna?" Because I didn't really have a.
We were delighted to find
I
out
didn't
you
have
had it.
a set time that I
Yeah.
would do the special. I would just do it, and I'd promote it on Facebook or whatever.
Right.
So now another friend of mine, he kind of talked me into it. So now every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is biscuits and gravy. So you can come out on the weekends and get biscuits and gravy anytime.
So
We'll be
let
doing
me ask Chef a question before I ask Jimbo a question, okay? Because is this a rude question to ask to someone who makes something like this? I want to ask what's special about his biscuits and gravy because I know there's something is, and I know you got a secret. And you probably don't want to give
It tastes good,
but
I
I
can
know
tell you
there's
that.
something you're holding close to the vest about the biscuits and gravy. And I was trying to figure
It's
out
his
what
personal-
it is. And I can't ask you what the secret is, but I will ask. It's got something.
Well, you might trick him.
It's your recipe, right?
Well, it is my recipe, and it's kind of evolved over time. I love sausage, and I'll just tell you, the sausage makes the gravy.
Really?
Yeah. If you can,
The kind of sausage?
You got to have
Yeah.
the right brand every time.
Right.
That's.
I use the
okay.
same,
Yeah.
and I don't care. It's Jake's sausage.
Sure.
I've never seen
And
that.
it is a wonderful sausage. It's made in Bardstown.
And he's right. I mean, we're talking gravy here, and is as much as we worship around here, it's not fancy, but you do it right, you do it your way, and you know whose gravy is the best? Yours, the one that you like to make. So, and I think I agree with you.
Consistency is
Buy a good product. Get
Right.
a good
sausage.
sausage because you're going to find there's a big. Huge variance. Sausage is not just sausage. Don't
That's
go
a
and
good
buy.
lesson.
Do not go and buy generic sausage thinking it's going to come out
Yeah.
anywhere near a name brand or a full flavor or anything
that's
local.
very, very true. Very
Because
true.
two things people kind of cheap out on when they're cooking at home is if you're making sausage gravy, you generally buy the cheapest sausage because you're like it's going in gravy, and then you buy cheap cooked wine to cook with.
We're all guilty of that.
yeah, we all do
Because
that.
you spent all the money on the center of the plate items, so the things like oil and butter and bacon, those are the things you try to save the money on, and that's really what makes the big difference.
Yeah, that's
Let
a
me-
good point. It's a
Very
very
true.
good point.
Very true.
Are you looking at expanding your hours at any point, or are you just going to kind of crawl before you walk kind of thing?
Well, we've talked about it, but not anything
6 hours of
concrete,
service is
but
hard.
It is, and this time in our world, staffing is a big issue, and if you extend hours or do something
Then
else,
you've
you
got-
need more staff, and
You need to double it.
yes.
There's nobody that can work doubles every day.
That's right. That's right. And again, I go back to if it ain't broke, don't
Yeah,
don't
and
fix
it's
it.
you've got a good following.
We have our niche. We're 8 to 2. During the week, we switch at breakfast in the morning, switch at lunch at 11. On the weekends, it's all day breakfast because it's just hard to when you got so many people coming.
Yeah.
And
And the size of your kitchen, it's not like you can stage the next menu
Exactly.
over here while
Exactly.
you're putting out breakfast.
And
stuff, yeah.
I mean, this studio is about the size of my kitchen, so it's very small. But it's been my chef and his wife.
He's been
Manuel
there
and
for a
Veronica,
long time, haven't
They've been
they?
there for long as I can remember, and they do a fabulous job.
Well, they do.
And again, if it
Why?
ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's what people. What I loved about him when I went there and ate is with his eggs, consistency. If you like it over medium, over easy, scrambled, they come out the same every time.
Can I ask you a question? Does he make, on occasion or did in the past, make a whole wheat pancake?
I don't know.
All right, well, I'm just going to find out because it was before you owned it, but I was there and I had some of the best pancakes I've had in my life.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't see that often, right? So I don't
is
know
it?
what was
What
going
makes a
on there
great
that
pancake?
day,
What
but it
makes
was
a
a
great
whole
pancake?
wheat
Fluffy?
pancake.
Fluffy?
Yeah,
what
that's
makes
a
it?
good question. What does make it? That's a very
Yeah,
good
let's
question.
talk about. Let's analyze pancakes.
We have to talk about the type of pancake first, right?
Yeah.
So
There's different
First of
types.
all, you're never going to win my heart unless you're using buttermilk, okay? Because the
Sure.
acid just really just livens up the entire thing, makes it light, makes it fluffy, gives a little tartness to it. And when you hit that maple syrup on it, that's kind of the balance I'm looking for. So I think, the sourness of buttermilk is the best. But then achieving the right amount of leavening agent, as in just a little bit of egg, but also another leavener, to where you get it a little bit crispy on the outside, but ultra fluffy in the center. And that's a balance. It's almost like you really know what you're doing when you're cooking it. Have the right temperature on your griddle to where they sear,
Okay.
but they don't burn.
So it's
but they're-
art.
it's a high
much.
temperature sear, but it doesn't like cook them. Burn.
So fluffy in the middle,
Fluffy in the middle, but a little bit of a crisp on the
crisp
outside
on
for
the
me.
outside.
What about texture, because I think probably where people go wrong is they overmix their pancakes, right? And they come tough.
Overmix. What do you mean? They
Yeah,
should have
so-
lumps in them.
Well, you kind of want the lumps.
Well, if you constantly whip your batters and your doughs, what you're doing is you're aligning the gluten. They're lining up and getting stronger. That's why your doughs get thick and ribbony over time when you're mixing. So same thing happens. It's wheat. You start whipping it together. They start lining up, and it becomes a tougher mass. So yeah, same thing with like shortbreads and cornbread. Don't
So that's why
overmix
the
your
directions
batter. Like
sometimes
right when you
don't
put
mix
everything
too
in the
much.
bowl for cornbread, just stir it a few times. There'll be like a little bit of egg white over here and yolk. Good.
Yeah.
Like bake it. It's going
Lumps
to come
are
out
good.
really good.
Lumps are good.
Lumps are good. With that, Jimbo,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Of the Tack House. Go check it out. Brandon Crossing, 8 till 2. Every day of the week except Sunday. No, Sunday also.
We're
right?
open 8 to 2 every day, but Mondays.
But Mondays.
We're closed
Okay.
on Mondays.
It's
Go
a
see
great
it.
place, folks.
Yeah.
I just was there.
Spectacular.
Love it. Thank you. And thank you for this wonderful spread. I've been eating away
Well,
more than I needed
Oh, don't worry.
to.
We're going to finish it.
that's fine.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fine.
Don't
That's
you
fine.
worry one little bit. It won't go to
Food
waste.
News and Shoes Radio.